Jagex has just revealed a very big part of the Varlamore update, which is a brand new minigame that is somewhat related to two things. One is Barrows and the other is Gauntlet. In the latest post they said this: deep within Varlamore beneath the cliffs of Rala's Rise, you will encounter a new challenge. You have to hunt for supplies, gather fish and obtain items before facing off against the 3 deadly demi-bosses. If you manage to beat all 3 demi-bosses, you will have a chance to obtain several new unique items. Today I want to have a first glimpse into those 3 bosses, what we can expect, dive into the rewards they offer and prepare ourselves for 20th of March, which is the release of Varlamore Part 1. So without further ado, let's get into it. Now bear in mind, we don't have a lot of information and Jagex intentionally has kept it this way because they want all of us to go explore Varlamore ourselves on day 1, but I think we can make some conclusions from the pictures and information we have available to us. Firstly, before you can even attempt this minigame, you have to complete a Dwarven medium level quest to get access to the dungeon. But don't worry, the quest itself is probably not that difficult considering the minigame is meant for medium level players, so around 80 combat is good enough. Jagex has stated that defense is going to be the key in this minigame, so you definitely want to either have good defensive gear or good defensive level. After you finish the quest, you're ready for the encounters. First you are dropped into the lobby, and this is also where the reward room is going to be. We can see the 3 demi-bosses guarding the chest in the middle, and it's players' job to defeat them. We also see an NPC at the back of the room who is likely going to be the guide. Keep in mind, unlike Barrows or Gauntlet, multiple people can attack these demi-bosses at the same time, and Jagex has stated that you can't kill them, you can only distract them long enough so they are contained within the dungeon. It's kinda like Temporos. You don't really kill the water monster, you just contain it. The round ends and you go again. So you get dropped into the middle and the dungeon spreads out in 4 ways, but only one of them is going to be opened up. All the players head in that direction and you will have plethora of challenges ahead of you. You can take shortcuts, you can do food and potions, and you can also bring supplies yourself from bank if you want to. There are going to be monsters around the dungeon that you can defeat for more supplies, and there are also going to be base camps all around the dungeon so you can retrieve and store all your fishing and hunter tools. Once you feel like you're strong enough, you can start going after the 3 demi-bosses. It doesn't matter which of the 3 you tackle first as long as you try to get all 3 of them, because that's the only way to gain unique rewards. There is also a new mechanic Jagex is introducing where instead of having one big health bar for all players, you will now have your own individual health bar, so the guy next to you with Sight and Full Dorva won't snipe any loot from you. For your gear options, it is highly recommended to have full Justiciar setup like we mentioned before, because defense is the key. There is a unique special attack with all 3 bosses where they hit you with 3 basic attacks, but if one of the bosses misses their basic attack, the other 2 will miss as well. So you need to utilize your defensive stats, which includes levels, having piety turned on, super defense potions. If you don't have money for Justiciar, then the second best option is full tank gear like Dorax or Tarok. Also, before we deep dive into the 3 bosses, if you want to see more Varlamore content, make sure to subscribe. Thank you. Okay, the first boss out of the 3 is an Eclipse boss. It is a fairly big arena for players to enter, and it seems like the main mechanic of this demi-boss is going to be related to the ball that is circling the arena. Since the Eclipse armor, which is one of the rewards, is related to ranged combat style, I would assume this boss's basic attacks are also ranged style. The set effect of the Eclipse armor is that you have a 20% chance to burn your target for 10 damage, and it becomes even more powerful if you combine it with the Eclipse spear. So it's safe to say that this boss will also contain some sort of burn damage, and Jagex has stated that they want to focus heavily on mechanics of the bosses, kinda like Desert Treasure 2, where you can take very minimum damage if you're skilled enough, but if you mess something up, you're going to be punished. The second boss out of the 3 is a Blood Moon boss. Immediately I had this Vartorvis vibes with the roots dangling from the ceiling, and this boss is likely going to be melee combat style. Firstly, it has blood spatulas. I'm sorry, I cannot pronounce this word, so we're just gonna call them spatulas. The blood spatulas have a very high damage output against monsters with low defense, so we can assume the Blood Moon bosses use the same mechanics. That's why once again defense is very important here. Bring your best armor. Along with the blood spatulas, we have armor that comes with it, and that armor, just like all Barrows armors, has a special effect. The effect is when wearing the blood spatulas and armor together, you have 1 in a 3 chance for your next attack to happen 1 cycle faster, so 0.6 seconds quicker. And finally, the blood spatulas themselves has a special attack where it sacrifices 10% of your current hit points. So let's say you have 50 hit points, you will lose 5 and it will increase your next minimum and maximum hit by 25%. If your next hit is a success, you will get a 1 cycle effect once again where the blood spatulas hit faster. So the conclusion for this boss is that it's likely going to be attacking very fast. It will require quick thinking and planning. The boss might sacrifice its own hit points to deal more damage to you. And finally, there is also cycles of the moon near the boss, and I assume depending on which cycle it lands, it will also perform some sort of attack based off that. And the final boss of the 3 is Frost Moon, which is a mage combat style. Firstly, the boss will utilize both melee and magic in the fight. The idea behind the boss is to freeze you and then deal extra damage based off that freeze. Now the question for this is, we already know what kind of defense the other 2 bosses require, but should we bring extra armor against this boss for the magic defense? The Frost Moon weapon itself has a pretty cool special attack, which increases your damage based on how long your opponent has been frozen. So let's say you use Ice Barrage, which has a 32 cycle freeze, aka 19.2 seconds. If you manage to hit with a Spell Spear special attack on the exact same cycle, that means you will have 32% increased damage and accuracy against your opponent. Furthermore, if you also equip the Frost Moon armor set along with that, you have a 10% chance for your next attack to not have a delay if you just hit someone with a freezing spell. So it's all about combining magic and melee together. The Spell Spear is an excellent melee weapon that utilizes for you to have ice spells, and if you combine the armor, the weapon and ice spells together, you can do some powerful combos. And that's exactly what I think the boss will do as well. It will try to freeze you and attack with its spear in melee distance. This is also the first time Jagex has dived into trying to combine 2 combat styles together. For the longest time we have the combat triangle where everything beats everything, but combining the 2 things together opens up to a lot of new possibilities. I have now briefly mentioned all the armor sets and weapons you can obtain from these challenges, and it really does feel like Barrows reborn again. You want to collect all the armor pieces, you want to collect all the weapons and combine them together for some powerful attacks. So we have 3 new bosses with their own unique style, dropping armor and weapons. You need to kill all 3 of them and then you can loot the chest in the middle. And if you really want to prepare for this, I would highly recommend you go to some Barrows runs to get you started. It seems that Jagex is putting a lot of emphasis on trying to get players to learn more mechanics within the game and understand it better, so players can do more content in the future. We saw that with Desert Treasure 2 bosses, we saw that with Scurrius the Rat King, and we're likely gonna see it this time with the Perilous Moon challenges. So I am fully looking forward to what Varlamore has to offer for us, and hopefully this will get a lot of mid-level players interested in endgame content. But that's it from me. If you want to see more Varlamore content, make sure to subscribe. I love you all very much. Bye.